What conversations are you having about this development? Can we confirm that it was related to her opposition to this development?
We are absolutely devastated because she was such a central, strong person with tremendous integrity who stood for what we all believed in. And it's a huge loss. We can only assume it must be related to the stand that she was taking in relationship to the coal mine, the Tendele coal mine, and that there were attempts by the coal mine to persuade her. She was the vice chairperson of the local CBO that we work very closely with, and that's the Umfolozi Community Environmental Justice Organization, Mtubatuba. So she was the deputy chairperson, and she was the only one who did not engage in meetings with the mine because we involved in court cases, litigation. And it's ultra vires to meet and discuss the things that are actually presented to the court, where we're needing the court to make a decision. Was not acceptable. So she was very conscious about that, and she was aware that there were discussions, and she was actually offered 350,000 to sign, and she was completely against it because she really focused on the community, her heart, her vision, her integrity, her mind, everything, her spirit. She was a very spirited person. And, I do believe that in Zulu, her name, Fikile, means arrived. And a friend of mine always talks about the roadmap that a name provides. Fikile, when she moved into a room, she arrived. You knew she was there. She was a presence. She was very strong. She was very clear. And she was very critical of the other the committee members who were prepared to compromise the community. Without getting a mandate, now they're getting a mandate retrospectively, but that's not the point. They should have been consulting the community from the beginning, and she would have nothing of it.
You've said so much about her already, but doesn't take away the shock of the story. How will Mam Fikile be remembered?
I hope it will be for standing up and speaking out for what she believed and for what was right. And she was tenacious. She was like a bulldog. Once she got onto an issue, she would push that point until it was heard. It might not be accepted, but she would carry on with that point until it was heard. And it was always based on integrity. It was always based on what she believed to be right.
Yeah. This speculation that her killing might be linked to the development of a coal mine. What can you tell us about this? What is it?
Look, it's not a development of a coal mine. It's an operating coal mine.
Okay.
I jumped in.
It's all right, continue.
But it is an operating coal mine. But the point is, it isn't a lot of what the operations, they're not compliant with the law. And, so we really strongly support that the law applies to all. And what we're asking is for the mine to be compliant. So, that's the point, that they come on board because a lot of the things that are not compliant have enormous environmental impacts, not for this generation, but for future generations. Zululand is a drought-stricken area. I mean, it's a bit of a country in its own right, but it's a drought-stricken area. And we've had disaster areas declared. I mean, it's been disasters before because there's a lack of water. And currently, with COVID, it was very obvious that water was a critical issue. So, to not have all the environmental information available, it's irresponsible for a mine to want to continue operating without getting that information. So this is what we're calling for. We're calling for legitimacy. We're calling for complying with the law. There's so many good environmental laws in this country. And we really need to apply them because they're not, they have a reason. The reason we've got these environmental laws are very important. It is to ensure we survive on the environment. Nature, we're part of nature. We are nature. And we forget that because we can't live without being connected to nature. We live as part of nature. And to destroy water, the most critical resource, is not acceptable. And Fikile was very conscious of that. She was really aware.
Sheila, it's all good and well to speak about Fikile's killing and suspicions in terms of what it might be related to. But what will Global Trust do to ensure that activism continues, not only against these mines that you say are not following regulations, but also to ensure that her death was not for nothing?
Yes, we really do not want her death to be for nothing. We do not want all that she's done to be forgotten, but we want to actually elevate it. We want to make sure that it's amplified, that what she stood for becomes part of how we operate, how we engage. And the way we work is really to accompany communities. I think we give them a very strong sense that we're on the same road with them. When there are problems, we're available. And Fikile and I, we were in regular contact. I would call us friends. We were friends. And when she needed something, when there was an issue, it didn't matter what time, she could phone me. And I think this is what we try and encourage for communities that are very isolated. They often have a sense of being forgotten. It's really hard with limited resources to be standing up against things that are wrong. And so our role, as we see it, is to be there, walking the journey with them, not ahead, not behind, but next to them.
Yeah. So this development, has it brought about a sense of fear amongst other environmentalists in terms of your freedom to conduct your work?
Yes, I can't say that it hasn't done that. It has. But at the same time, there are many people who are not going to allow fear to stop the work. They are active, they are still very engaged, and I think we're just aware that we need to be very careful because Fikile was not necessarily, she wasn't one of the families that needed to be moved in order for the mine to expand its operations. So she wasn't really directly connected to the issue of the expansion of the mine. Her connection was with the committee, and that she wasn't signing this agreement to engage with the mine to drop the court cases. So that was the role that she was playing. And it was a huge shock. I can't say that, it really came as a huge shock. And it shouldn't have, because she had some disturbing nights where she complained that the dogs were constantly barking. She was worried, but she wasn't scared. And it was ironic because the very day that she was killed, she said no, she thinks it's all fine. She thinks it's okay. Yeah. And then that evening, this is what happened. Yeah, but I don't know that I answered your question. Fear is very evident. And especially, I think, there are lots of single women, lots of women who are living in that community, and they are feeling incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah. Have you reached out to the family? How are they, especially the grandchildren who she's reportedly witnessed the killing?
The story I heard that he didn't witness it. He heard the gunshots, and then he came later. But he's completely traumatized, Ntshangase. And I'm on my way up to Zululand. I'm heading up there now with a good friend of mine, Hluhluwe Umfolozi. And I'm a clinical psychologist, so I do trauma counseling. And we will be working with him, and we will be working with the family.
Thank you so much for your time. Sheila Berry.
Thank you.
Sheila Berry is the director for the Environmental Global Trust, telling us about that shocking incident of a killing of an environmentalist in KwaZulu-Natal. Fikile Ntshangase was shot dead when 4 attackers burst into her home in the Ophondweni area near Mtubatuba.